Good morning, fellow Plexers. In today's video, I want to offer some advice to Bill from the Plex Media Server Support Group, who is building a new Plex server. He's interested in Unraid, but he wants to use Windows first for his server, just like his old one, because he wants to move his install from one to the other for continuity while also making a change. He doesn't specify it, but it sounds like he has a lot of different movie libraries instead of using the available features inside a movie library like collections. And he wants to clean that up, to have all his movies in one spot. Now, I'm going to suggest that he doesn't move the install to a new system and that he sets the new one up with Windows if he wants. He can do Ubuntu or even Unraid like he's thinking about, because it won't impact his users really one bit. And what needs to be concentrated on is starting out fresh right from the beginning with his file system.
You've had a text from Robert.
So let me use my virtual example. This is a virtual Ubuntu Plex install, and this is how I've got media set up on it. So first of all, I have a folder called media-plex that I then have sort folders in for every different type of library folder. So if someone was going to use Unraid or Synology or QNAP NAS, they would create a network shared folder named whatever they wanted to put all their media in. Media, Plex, media-plex, but it should all be lowercase without any spaces. That's not necessary for a regular Windows install, but if you're ever going to use Linux or a Docker container, you want to avoid uppercases and spaces. So I do the same naming convention with each library type. So there's a movie library sort folder, a music, an other video, a photos, and a TV library sort folder. Inside each one are the actual movie libraries that I want to have in Plex. If you want everything in one big movie library, you could just name it movie and leave it at that. So let me bring up this again. And I get it so you can see the same thing. So this movie library, if I go in and edit it, you'll see it points to this folder, movie-main. And if I go into the kids movie library and manage the library and edit it, that points to the movie-kids. So this way I can have some separation of movies that are really unlike each other. And that allows the rating system to work easier, because a lot of older movies may not have the ratings we're used to today. They might have a rating of passed or approved instead of G or PG or R. And this way, if you have separate kids content, you can just keep it in a separate library. And if you have children, you can just restrict them to those libraries. Or even if you're sharing with friends and family, you can give your buddy and his wife an account to your Plex server, and you can also give his kids a separate account under another one of their email addresses, and only allow the kids to have access to the kid libraries. It's more foolproof than just using ratings. So if I back up, I only have one music library. Not many people would have multiple music libraries, but just it's kind of going with a flow. Now I have some public domain ads, just old commercials, but for other video libraries someone might have, maybe you'd rip some Christmas fireplace scenes from YouTube. Maybe you'll have old movies, family movies. Maybe you want some music videos. all that stuff would belong in an other video library, and you'd simply create a new folder here for whatever new library you wanted, and then you'd point the library to this location. So here's just some artwork in a photo library. And inside my TV library sort folder, I have a library for my main TV shows and one for my kids. So that organization is probably what you want to switch to, something that'll work for the long haul. And of course, we have to follow Plex's naming conventions. So with a TV show library, you can pull the name from either TMDB or TVDB. TVDB does not list the year like TMDB, and Plex recommends putting the year in for everything. Then inside, it's always either season space 00 or specials for the special folder, and it's always season 01. It's not anything else. Plex never gives an example of season 1. And inside the season folder, the episode is named exactly the same as the show folder, and then it's a space dash space SO1 EO1 space dash space the proper episode name. And per Plex's naming instructions, I put media characteristics in brackets. The brackets tell Plex to ignore this during the scanning process, and this is only a rule in a series library, a TV show library, and not a movie library. I like to be able to look at a file and know information about it just by looking at it.
You have an informational message.
So if we go back up to my movie sort folder and into the main movie library, again, I'm following the naming conventions that Plex tells me to follow. The proper movie name from either TMDB or IMDB with a year in parentheses. And then I include the source ID in both the movie file name and the movie folder name. And you can use TMDB or IMDB. It has to be in curly Q brackets, and then it would be dash the database number from either. And if using the IMDB source ID, you would include the TT number. And then again, this has multiple editions of one movies, and I'm using the edition tag, which it can be found from Plex's guide on how to name media. So this one is an edition 4K, this is an 8K, this is an extended edition, this is unrated. And then I'm stealing the bracket idea, even though it's not mentioned in the movie naming guide. It doesn't hurt scanning, it doesn't prevent anything from scanning, and it doesn't cause a misscan, and visually I can look at a file and know the media characteristics about it. So I have 4 different versions of this movie in the one folder. And this is more conventional, just the one movie file inside its movie folder. So structure and naming is the key to a healthy Plex server library. If you use the fix match feature, your media is named wrong. Simply just named wrong. I never use the fix match feature because my media is all named 100% structured and matched to Plex's conventions. So we talked about not having a lot of different movie libraries for things like genres, like Bill alluded to having. I do like to separate unlike type of content. My main movie library has a lot of movies in it, and I also have a documentary library on my regular server that has a lot of documentaries, and they don't really need to be together. This way you can do separate collections for each library and not worry about things crossing over. And if you have a friend or family member who would never watch a documentary, they can unpin that from their own screen and not have to see it. Just like you can only give access to a kid's library, to younger users, you don't have to give documentary library access to everyone. If you know you got a few people that would never watch anything, ask them if they want access. If they don't even give them access. They won't even see it, won't even bother them. So I like to group unlike things with separate libraries, and then inside libraries I like to group like things with a collection. And if we go to the library tab, this is just a dumb manual collection. And to create a dumb manual collection, you basically just hit the pencil icon, click on tags, and you'll see it here. So if I click that, it would remove it or add it back. If I clicked on this one, I could call this new collection. And it's weird, you don't hit save changes, you have to click add the new collection, then save changes. And of course now I have that new collection. So this is a way of grouping like items. And another way to group like items is to use a smart collection with the add to button. You can create a smart collection and choose all these different variables. Say I wanted to have movies from a certain studio. Well, actually, the best way to do that would be, there's always a couple different ways to accomplish something. I would want to sort by studio. Let's see how many MGM movies. I'm looking for something that has more than one movie. I'm not going to get it with a small test collection. All this media is public domain media. But what I could do is I could start here with RKO Radio Pictures, go over, create smart collection, and it's already loaded for me. So now if I added another old movie that was produced by RKO Radio Pictures, it would just automatically be added to a smart collection. So you can start with advanced filters to create a smart collection, or you can just start in your library and start a smart collection from scratch. And you can sort things any way you want to. You can sort things by year in that smart collection. You can sort it by critical rating. So if you wanted to add an action collection of only the best rated movies, you could do it that way. So there's a lot of ways to organize things once it's in Plex. But again, it all comes down to proper naming and structure to start with. And unless Bill has a lot of custom movie posters where he's gone in and added his own images or changed a lot, or he has a lot of custom collection posters, there's really no need to move all your old information from one server to the other. Properly named media scans in great. And this is a tip too. If you want to use Plex's collections, there's an automated way to do it. When you create your library, make sure you edit it before you actually finish creating it. Under the advanced, by default, Plex is not going to have this checked. It's going to be disabled. Minimum automatic collection size. If you set it to 1, if you add the Back to the Future movie to it, the first one, and that's all you have, Plex will create a collection for that single movie because there's 2 more in this series. If you set it to number 2, there has to be at least 2 movies in your collection in order to create the collection. So if you add the first Back to the Future, you won't have the collection. If you add the second one, that will automatically create the collection and pull the first one in. Now let me show you how and why that works. And I'm sorry this is unscripted. I'm just trying to fill in information that might be helpful to Bill on the fly. So Plex pulls all movie database or metadata from a combined cache it keeps of both TMDB and IMDb. And generally, 99% of the time, movies will be a match for each other. So you can really just do this, and Control C copies that name, and that's the proper name for the movie. And the same thing here. You can just highlight that, and that's the proper name for the movie. That's all you need. If you want to add an extra, you can do a space. Well, let's do it this way. I don't know if I have a notepad installed in this virtual session. All right. So if you're naming manually, you can simply, well, let me fix this. Hold on a second. Use a text editor from my actual elementary OS instead of something virtual. So you just paste in the name for the file. And if you want to add the source ID from TMDB, it would be the curly Q brackets with a space in between that and the year, TMDB-105, which is listed right here. Now if I wanted to do it from IMDB, this would be curly Q bracket IMDB, and then it would be the TT number, which would be 0088763. And this source ID can then go into the file name. .mp4. And that's easy. You can do it all manually easy. FileBot with some custom expressions that I have in different videos will do it much quicker, and you can add the IMDb or the TMDB source ID number to both your folder and your file name, and Plex will never mismatch anything as long as FileBot knew which movie it was. Sometimes FileBot might say, is it this movie or that movie? And of course, if you pick the wrong movie, FileBot will name it the wrong way. So everything's based on structure. So then let's talk about Bill's users. So what I would do is I would leave the old server running, just create your new one, get it working the way you want, and then add the new users over. And I need to use my existing server to show an example of that. So let me bring that in a new window. So this is my latest server. Nobody's on it yet. It's a little Intel 11th Gen NUC running unraid without a storage array, pointing back to my Synology DS1520 NAS for all my storage. This is my first server on a Synology NAS. No one's on it anymore, and I simply haven't taken it down yet because there's some custom collections I want to recreate on this server. And this is my current one. All three are running. They're all on different machines, so they all have their individual IP addresses. And one of them, I don't remember which now, uses Plex's normal port forwarded externally. And then the other two servers uses Plex's normal port forwarded to a new port number externally. Very easy to have multiple servers running from the same local network. And if Bill's interested, I have a remote access tutorial video that shows how all of this works with multiple servers. So I guess I'm moving the wrong thing off the screen. So back to his users. What I would do is simply go to the settings of the server and go to, now once you have both servers up and running, that is, go to Manage Library Access, and you can click into a user, and it will then show the second server once it's running, and all you have to do is edit it and choose which libraries they have access to. It's very simple. And let me do this. Let me get out of here one level. Grant library access. This is my son, and if I wanted to add him to this virtual server, I'd simply hit continue, and you'd simply click what libraries you wanted to give him access to and hit continue. Now, if you have a user under your own Plex account and you create a second server under the same Plex account and you add them to a new server, they don't get a notification at all. They simply have access to that, and in their clients down under more, the additional information is going to show up. So this user has access to the virtual server and my regular server. And that's how it would look to your users. They'd see both servers, and they don't really have to do too much on their end to switch. They don't have to pin the new libraries, remove things around. All they have to do is sign out of their client device. And before they do, you might want to have them check one setting. And I think it's default now. You want the sync watch state and ratings to be on. And then once they sign out and then sign back in, Plex will ask them which of your two servers they want to be connected to primarily, and of course they should pick the new one. And their watch history will sync. The only thing that won't sync is their continue watching. So if they're in the middle of a TV show, they may want to finish viewing it on the old server. The next episode won't pop up and continue watching, but if they went to the TV show on the new server, any watched episodes would be marked as watched on the new server. Plex just wouldn't know if you were in the middle of it, and it wouldn't put the next episode up under continue watching. So if you've got a user who has 20 things in continue watching because they watched a little bit of this and stopped, and then watched a little bit of that and stopped, and so on, it's not going to be the nicest experience for them. But most users only have 2 or 3 or 4 things under continue watching, and it's not a huge deal. And if they've got more things, they can write things down, and once they start watching each thing again, the new continue watching will just pick up where the other one left off. It's not a really big deal. So basically, this is getting long. This is my advice to Bill. The beauty of Plex is you can build it and run it and make it look like anything you want. I'm always trying to highlight the foundational things, naming your files right, and I can't stress that enough. You really want to, if you don't use sort library folders, that's fine, but you need to follow the rules by having the movie folders and the series folders named properly, and name your actual media files correctly, and you'll never have to use Fix Match again. So Bill, I hope this helps you. There's a lot of Unraid users in our little group. If I haven't mentioned it, Bill's a member of the Plex Media Server Support Group. It's a great group to be in, and I'll try to help you out myself with whatever you need, but we've got a lot of Unraid users, and I am running Unraid without an array on my little Intel NUC. I'm using a flash drive to fake a physical hard drive so that Unraid will start up. I have a NVMe 500 gigabyte drive and a SATA 500 gigabyte SSD. In my NUC, I can only fit the 2 drives in there, and they're set up as a shared cache pool to run my 2 Docker containers on. And I thought Docker was fairly difficult to learn on my Synology NAS. I finally got it. That's how I'm running my current server that everybody's connected to. And I just thought setting up the Docker container under Unraid was so much easier, to the point where I don't think it'd be an issue for a first-time user. I use the Linux server image, and if I click into this and edit it, there's not a lot going on besides path to libraries. Now, I chose to have a path for each library type. I could have just went to a folder ahead of each sort folder and just had the one path to my Plex library, but I decided to have individual ones just to see if that would work any different. And then about the only thing, if you're running Intel hardware, is you need to get this line under extra parameters to unlock the iGPU, and I'm not going to be able to find it now. I think it's under settings someplace. Well, let's go to apps, because you have to install a couple things. You have to install Intel GPU Top and, well, GPU Stats. You need this to get hardware acceleration going, and you need this in order to get this. And if I was transcoding something on that server, you'd see this light up. Matter of fact, I can do that quickly. Off screen, I'm going to find my 4K library. And find something to old to all right, let's take that down to 2 megabits per second, 720p. And now you'll see the iGPU working. So, because I'm transcoding, you'll see it rendered in this little graph here. So Unraid is pretty cool. I was certainly surprised by it, and I would never hesitate anyone not to try it. I didn't think it was that hard to get going. I thought the learning curve was easier than even getting Docker going on the Synology NAS, a lot easier. The only thing I don't have experience with is setting up an array. You see my array is just the one flash drive. But there's lots of users in the group to help with Unraid. And that's about it, Bill. So good luck with your new server. If you have any questions, feel free to shout them out to me or the group in general. And just don't feel like you have to move your server. Again, if you don't have lots of custom artwork for your own collections or custom artwork for your movie posters, it really doesn't matter. This is a great opportunity to improve your folder structure, to use FileBot to fix all your names up perfectly. I've got FileBot videos, I've got custom expressions. My custom FileBot expressions actually tell me if the file has an embedded subtitle, and it'll add in brackets ENG-SUB for English subtitle or UNK for unknown subtitles, which most of the time are English, and they're just not properly labeled in the container. So I know this is a lot of information, but it is what it is. Happy Friday and happy Plexing.